Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're reviewing Anno Online. Now, Anno Online is a city builder game, kind of like SimCity, specifically SimCity 2000. But instead of exchanging population, it actually instead exchanges goods. You're on an island, and it's really hard to actually make it in an abandoned hole, being that most of the time I've made money, and you just kind of let it sit there and make money for you, just so you can spend it when you get on again, and then you leave it again to make money, some more money. Now, before we get farther into the game, I'd like to say that it was made by Ubisoft, which obviously they're the same people that made Assassin's Creed. And hey, what do you know? It's a free game that's made by a company that I've actually heard of, and I've played the games before, so that's good. It gives me a sort of feeling when I first get it that it might be good. So let's start off, without any further ado, with the controls. And the controls, well, being a city building game, it's kind of hard to screw up. And what do you know? They don't screw up! Now, it's hard to really rate the control system, being that it's a city building game, and that the only way to really screw up the city building game is that if you have to be overly precise, and the mouse control where you have to build stuff is constantly jittering around. And it doesn't do that, so hey, I'm just going to say the controls are playable. But now let's get to the graphics, and the graphics actually are really good. I think so. They are okay at some certain spots, but they're really good in others. Like the market, the people moving around, there's a bunch of animations, there's different types of stuff. You can build a lot of different stuff, and they really show just a bunch of animations for your city. And as they get bigger, it really just gets more bustling and bigger, and you make more money. Now, being that this is a free-to-play city-building game, you can sort of draw forward that kind of revolves around money. Money in-game, and actual U.S. currency that you can use to buy that in-game money that has no value whatsoever. You can get some of these. There's two different types of currencies. There's gold, and then there's rubies. Gold is what you use pretty much all the time in order to build things such as buildings, like iron mines, warehouses, pioneer sheds. And that combined with certain materials such as wood, stone, tools, and a bunch of different special resources such as clothes and drinks and food. That's most of the big three. Now let's explain how to make money. Now, the people that make money are the markets and also your residences, which are pioneer huts. And unlike the SimCity games, if you build it automatically, it actually gives you a guaranteed amount of people. You don't have to worry about people moving out or, becoming an abandoned hole. I hate you, SimCity 2000. And all your 3D car driving glory. Anyway, off from the deep enragement of my childhood with SimCity 2000 and on to really how the rest of the game works, being that I was kind of getting off. Now let me get on to the pioneers, or really the residences, and the marketplaces. Now you need marketplaces in order to build residence houses, and the marketplaces have a limited range, so you need to build more of them. And the residences you can actually upgrade through giving them special resources that they can buy at the markets for more money. And if you give them said resources, they will actually make you more money. Now you can get these upgradable buildings such as taverns and churches and different stuff like that in order to get more people per household in those residences. Residences are just flying up everywhere. This in turn, because there's more residences in that residence, it obviously makes them more money, and that's good. Because these special resources that you give people also lose money, along with, a bunch of harbors and warehouses and ships and everything. And now that we've explained pioneer residences and special resources and how they give you money and they're also available to trade, and really there's a bunch of building materials. Let's go into building materials. Building materials are obviously needed to construct buildings, and there's three different types, or at least ones that I've seen so far. There's wood, there's stone, and there's tools. Now, wood is going to be the first one you use. Stone is going to be the second one you use. And then finally, I just recently unlocked the tools, which are used for more advanced buildings, such as docks and piers and different stuff. Generally, the ones that require tools also require a lot of stone and wood. And in order to construct certain buildings, you need this certain material. And how do you produce these certain materials? Well, you construct certain type of, a building material producing buildings, such as the lumberjack hut, the stone mine, and the tool maker's melter, whatever it's called, which you need 3 different separate resources in order to make those tools, or actually 2. You need the iron mine, you need the coal and you need the iron ore smelter, which you need coal in order to power, which either use a coal mine or a coal burner's hut. And then you have the tool maker shop thingy majigger, which is used to make tools. Now that we got building materials out of the way and really building in general, let's talk about progressing through the game. Now, once you've gotten all these special resources such as apples or wheat or hemp, in order to, which oddly looks like weed to me. But anyway, you use all these materials, and once you get all 3 of them for a certain class of citizen, you can upgrade the residents in order to make them a higher class. You can get for which, if you give them a certain amount of resources, makes a boatload more money than the previous tier of residents. Now, the first tier you have is pioneers, which is the most common one. Then you have vassal. Then you have merchants, and then finally you have imperials. Now, at first, if you upgrade the tier to the next class without giving them any special resources, they will actually give you less money. They'll actually make you less money, but they will actually go towards a driven goal because there's certain challenges you can do on the left, which I'm clicking to right now. Now, these challenges are given, when you go through certain parts of the game, and some of them are easy and some of them are really, really hard. But if you complete them, you get a certain amount of rewards, which is really nice. Some of them are planned, like get a certain population of this tier of residents, to random ones, such as fix my wagon cart, or hold a jousting tournament, or maybe bar fights, I don't know. Something happens, and you have to fix it. You get money for it. There's also these challenges that you get for ship combat, and now let me explain the big world of ships. Now, because you're living on an island, you get ships every so often, or at a certain point you build ships. And you can build trade ships, you can build scouts, which look for pirates, which I'll explain later. You can get trade ships to trade with other players, which I'll also explain later. And you get this guy named Lord Nurnborough, or whatever his name is, which gives you help, financial help throughout the game, which is actually pretty good. Now let's first talk about the combat ships, and there's 3 of them that you can choose: the brig, the caravel, and the galley. Now, it's sort of like a rock, paper, scissors type thing, and that's what I can draw to. The brig is way better than the caravel is better than the galley, and the galley is better than the brig. It's sort of a threefold effect, and if you use the caravel on the brig, it's really, really bad, and you'll generally lose your caravel to the brig. But if you use the galley against the galley will dominate it, and pretty much sink it in the first or second try. Now, it's pretty useful. Now, you use these combat ships in order to battle pirate ships. And these pirate ships, or these pirate encounters, you get from your scout. Your scout just, you give him a certain amount of materials, he looks around for a couple minutes, probably just floating in circles, and then he just gives you an encounter that you can use within a certain time period, and you get experience and treasure from. Now, from this treasure, you can get a bronze ducats, which can be used to buy stuff from an online store, which is pretty useful, called the black market. You can get cannonballs, which are pretty useful for building material and research. You can get knowledge points, which are used to research your ships and make them more powerful. And you can also capture ships in order to use against other pirate ships. Or you can dismantle them and get further materials from them, which is, again, also useful. But if you capture a pirate ship, you won't be able to use it. You'll be able to use it until the end of the match, and after that it just suddenly disappears, and you won't be able to get the materials from it, which is a shame. Now, with these ships, you can also get certain upgrades for them, such as healing. You can heal the ship's health because they take damage. You can use a cannonball shot in order for them to deal more damage, ranged or main attack damage. Or you can use a smoke bale, which is used, to give more gives it more defense, really. And overall, if you use all three as in conjunction and all that, you can really just, dominate your enemy. Now that we got combat out of the way, let's go to trade. Now, trade you unlock near the end of the game. Well, not really near the end. It's more we're on the third tier of residences, the merchants. And you can trade with other players using the free trade storehouse. Now, if you build more of them, you're able to trade more stuff at once. But each slot is taken up. So, what you do is you build a free trade storehouse, and you get the option to buy or sell stuff. And you can't buy and sell stuff at the same time unless you have multiple things. But anyway, you can buy materials from other players in a certain listed item, and you can sell stuff around that same idea, hoping that other people will buy it at your listed price. And it will take time for your trade ships to transport stuff from their island to your island and vice versa. And once it's done, you'll actually gain a decent amount of money depending on how much you sell it for. And it's pretty good, and everybody's happy. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do in this game that I'm not mentioning. You can create a guild, which is basically just a club that has a limited amount of people. You can create friends. You can visit that Northborough Sky Island, which is actually pretty interesting. Do a bunch of different stuff. Now that we've gone through all the ships and the islands and the building and the materials and all that, let's go through the online store. Because it's a free-to-play city builder game. That should really explain itself. Now, it uses this called rubies, and you can use these rubies to get certain special stuff for your, for your island, such as like enhanced stuff that makes it like mining stuff go faster. You can get materials faster. You can get plain materials, and there's certain stuff that you can buy with using gold and not the other stuff, and that's pretty cool. But it has a limited amount, and once you run out of zero, you can't really buy it ever again. And I haven't really found a way in order to increase the amount again, so that kind of sucks. But let's continue on with the rubies. Now, every time you level up, and yes, there is a leveling in this game, which is kind of cool, you get a certain amount of rubies and some money. Now, with these rubies, you can do a lot of stuff. You can spend on like little hedges and stuff, which is kind of a waste of money. Or you can spend on enhanced stuff to get your buildings. Or you can actually get these things called uncut rubies, which are interesting, because if you have a certain special building called the Ruby Cutter, it will actually give you rubies in exchange for these uncut rubies. And if you buy a bunch of these uncut rubies, it will actually give you more rubies than you originally paid for, which is actually kind of cool. But to make these uncut rubies takes a lot of time, so it would take a long time before you actually see those rubies come back. And it's probably well worth it, especially if you have an upgraded version of this Ruby Cutter. So that's pretty nice. Now that I've pretty much explained almost everything about this game, and God is it complicated, and there's still probably a bunch of stuff that I haven't mentioned, but let's get on to my overall thoughts about the game. Now, I haven't really found many bad things about the game. It hasn't really crashed on me. It hasn't really, had many bugs. It's well supported with a pretty good-sized community. It actually, and being that's a free to play city building game, it doesn't really bug you with a bunch of stuff such as saying, "Oh, why don't you spend money on this?" or "We're not going to let you play any longer until you spend your money on this." It doesn't really do that, and that's really nice. I like that a lot. The interface is pretty easy to use. It gives you a bunch of chances, and it's really hard for you to really screw up your island. The thing is if you do screw up your island, it's kind of hard to get back. I've never really had it before, but I know you can't really start a new island. I mean, you can settle different islands, and that's cool, but you can't really start all the way over. So that's a little problem, but it's not too bad. Overall, this game is pretty good. I mean, being that it's made by Ubisoft, you can already tell that people were spent time on it, and so that's pretty good. And overall, it's just a pretty good game. It doesn't really bug you about a bunch of stuff that, to buy stuff, and that's good. So anyway, this is Anno Online, and I'm Oscar7, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.